Welcome to Sports Charlotte, the podcast about sports in Charlotte. My name is Herb White. I'm editor-in-chief at the Charlotte Post. It is Thursday, March 20, 2025. And this young fellow over here to my right is Cameron Williams, who is staff reporter at the Charlotte Post and riding shotgun on Sports Charlotte.
I thought I was about to not get introduced for a second. He found a way to tie that back in. But anyway.
Absolutely.
Today is a national holiday for us college hoops fans.
Yeah. And what about for those of us who may not be?
Take off work.
Oh, well.
I mean, it was like I was telling our receptionist earlier. She's like, well, maybe not everybody enjoys sports. I said, this should be a national holiday. And she's like, well, maybe not everybody enjoys basketball. I'm like, true. But not everyone celebrates Christmas. Not everyone celebrates Thanksgiving. And guess what? They still take off work, do they not?
They do.
So, make it a national holiday. Thursday, Friday, the tournament. No one has to go to work.
Well, and that's a good point. And office pools and brackets are flying left and right in anticipation of this national do less day.
Well,
it's not a holiday, it's a do less
think
day.
about it. Even for those that are in the office till 4 or 5 o'clock, you know they got split screen on them, or some of them have two monitors. One's got work on it, the other's got the hoops.
And if you have a smartphone or
got that right down there.
Absolutely. And how many closets have people stuck in them watching their smartphone screens today?
Right? or you've gone, is your stomach tore up? You've gone to the bathroom like 7 times. Yeah, I must have got a hold of something.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden,
March Madness.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, no, out of their pocket. Buzzer beater alert.
Well, but it's obviously a huge deal if you're a sports fan, and if you are a fan of a school in the Carolinas, you're still fairly happy about all this.
We got a couple teams in there. One, apparently the predominant favorite. Most people have picked Duke to win the whole thing, which we'll see. It's all going to be determined on how healthy is Cooper Flagg. I know they kept him out of the ACC tournament after he rolled his ankle against Georgia Tech, so he's had plenty of time to kind of rest, but when you have a severe ankle sprain, how quickly can that recover? North Carolina really turned some heads, not only getting into the tournament, because if you're basing it on quad 1 wins, there's a whole lot of conspiracy theories there.
Mm-hmm.
We'll omit to talk about those because I'm sure you've probably heard them all. But they did lay belt to rear end against San Diego State. That was an obliteration. And they're actually favored against Ole Miss on Friday. So we'll see how that goes. And then Clemson is probably the most unique game. They're one of those 5-12s, and for those aren't really familiar with the tournament, 12-5 upsets happen pretty regularly.
Every year, it seems.
And so this McNeese team, their coach just announced he's going to be taking the NC State job after Kevin Keats was fired there. So will his team kind of rally around him like, one final hurrah? And I mean, I like them to definitely cover the 7.5 point spread. They could even win that game.
So who has the most pressure from the Carolinas? Is it, I would imagine Clemson is, well, not to say that they're just happy to be there, but they don't have the basketball pedigree of North Carolina and Duke. So who's carrying the heaviest burden out of the Carolina schools?
I think you would have to say Duke just because they're the a number 1 seed, a second overall number 1 seed behind Auburn. They've got all the talent and depth and all the stuff that the people that get paid a lot more than me, analysts like to talk about. And so there's a lot of pressure on them to finally get over the hump, get back to the Final Four, which would be the first under Coach John Shire. But right close behind is Carolina. You can't have all the controversy about making the tournament and then not. I mean, yeah, you're an 11 seed, but I think they at least need to win this game and possibly even get to the Sweet 16 for people to finally be like, okay, it was justified. They should have been a tournament team. So A little bit of both, but I mean, Duke, they definitely need to make the Elite Eight, Final Four. Carolina, I think, needs to win 1 or 2 games. Clemson, they're just sitting back like, yeah, we want to make a run, but as far as the teams in the Carolinas, there's no pressure on them.
I would agree. The Tigers are playing with house money because all the attention is going to be on the North Carolina teams in this instance. Although UNC Wilmington is in that field as well. So, it's
Texas Tech will roll tonight. I mean, roll.
So we're just giving our props to the Seahawks so that in the event that there's a UNC Wilmington person out there,
hard for me as a Charlotte alum to give props to the Seahawks.
Oh. But I, on the other hand, want to give credit where credit's due. They made the field. Congratulations to them. They've had a really good season.
They have played well.
And UNC Wilmington basketball is underappreciated, I think. And it's probably because of the conference that they play in. And it's a mid-major, and just like everybody else who's a mid-major, they get disrespected to a certain degree.
All right, I want to do something with Herb real quick. I'm throwing him a curveball. We're going to do the Herbert White bracket breakdown. Keep it quick. Who you got, Auburn or Alabama State?
Auburn.
Louisville or Creighton?
Creighton.
Michigan or UC San Diego, which is really odd. This is one of those 5-12s that...
Michigan.
So that's what I tend to think, too. A&M or Yale? Texas A&M, that is.
Texas A&M.
Ole Miss or UNC?
North Carolina.
Iowa State or Lipscomb?
Give me the Cyclones.
Marquette or the New Mexico Lobos?
New Mexico.
Michigan State or Bryant?
What's the seeding?
Well, 2 and 15.
Michigan State.
All right. Going down to the West, Florida or Norfolk State?
Norfolk State is a very good team out of the MEAC, but I'm just having an issue thinking that they would be capable of pulling off an upset. So, Florida.
UConn or Oklahoma? 8-9 game.
Oklahoma.
Fading Dan Hurley in the first round. Memphis or Colorado State? Another 5-12.
Colorado State.
That's another popular one. Maryland or Grand Canyon? A 4-13.
Maryland.
Missouri or Drake? This is another popular 6-11 controversy.
Missouri or Drake? Drake.
Yeah. Our brackets are looking mighty similar. Texas Tech or UNC Wilmington?
That's a what?
A 3-14.
UNC Wilmington and who?
Texas Tech.
Texas Tech. Texas Tech.
And then 7-10, Kansas or Arkansas? Bill Self or John Calipari?
Arkansas.
Oh boy. Okay, that's what that our bracket did vary. St. John's or Omaha? Rick Pitino.
Rick Pitino all the way.
Oh boy. All right, going to the
I
other
think
side.
that is a group that's capable of making the Elite Eight.
Yeah, Elite Eight or Final Four.
At the very least.
So much goes in March. So much of it's about coaching, and Rick Pitino's obviously proven over his long career he can get the job done. So
coaches and backcourts. If you've got those, you have a shot.
Right. Duke or Mount St. Mary's?
Duke.
Mississippi State or Baylor?
Baylor.
Oregon or Liberty? The Flames, another 5-12. Oregon and Liberty.
Liberty. Oh, Oregon.
I'll brag it very little bit there. I think the Flames can get it done. Arizona or Akron? One of probably the most up-tempo games of the tournament. That game could get in the 90s.
Akron.
Woo! There we go.
Akron. Because that's the
Zips.
Zips.
No.
The Zips are going to live up to that. And I think they're primed to do some work.
All right. Brigham Young or Virginia Commonwealth?
BYU.
I think they're going to win too. Wisconsin or Montana as a 3-14? The Grizzlies.
Wisconsin.
St. Mary's and Vanderbilt.
St. Mary's.
Alabama and Robert Morris.
Bama.
All
Roll
right.
Tide.
Houston or SIUE?
Houston.
Yeah. Gonzaga or Georgia?
Man, that one will be kind of difficult.
The 8-9 games this year are so good.
Yeah. I'll take Gonzaga.
I can see here.
With reservation.
Yeah, but man, I think Gonzaga give Houston nightmares in the second round. Basketball is all about matchups. Anyway, Clemson or McNeese?
Clemson.
All right. Purdue or the High Point University?
Oh, that's the other North Carolina school.
Yeah.
We got to get...
Sorry, we forgot to give our props.
Yeah, I got to give High Point their props.
Had a really nice comeback against Winthrop in the Big South Tournament Championship.
One and done, though.
Oh, do you think they lose Purdue?
Yeah.
Okay. Illinois or Xavier? Xavier they came back against Texas last night. Great game.
I like Xavier.
Kentucky or Troy?
Kentucky.
UCLA or Utah State is the 7-10.
UCLA.
And then Tennessee and Wofford.
Sorry, Terriers.
The Vols. All right, round of 32. Auburn or Creighton?
Auburn.
Michigan or Texas A&M?
Michigan.
That's a good game, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
North Carolina or Iowa State? Iowa State is battling some injuries.
North Carolina.
Not to sway your pick, but Iowa State.
North Carolina is
Iowa State's actually
whole team.
Their first game against Lipscomb. That's the most popular 14-3 pick right now because of the injuries. New Mexico or Michigan State?
New Mexico.
Ooh, the Lobos knocking out Izzo. Florida or Oklahoma?
Oklahoma.
Dadgum. Now this bracket's getting a little crazy now.
Well, that's usually the way it works, isn't it?
Colorado State or Maryland?
Maryland.
Drake or Texas Tech?
Texas Tech.
Arkansas or St. John's?
St. John's. That'll be a really good game.
It should be.
With some high-profile, very charismatic coaches going at it. Yeah, that's going to be. But the game will be won on the court. So give me St. John's.
Duke or Baylor?
Duke.
Oregon or Akron?
Maybe some more zip ties. So Akron.
Oh man, you got Duke and Akron in the Sweet 16. That'll be interesting. BYU or Wisconsin?
Brigham Young.
St. Mary's or Alabama?
Alabama.
Houston or the Zags?
Houston.
Clemson or Purdue?
Clemson.
Xavier or Kentucky?
Kentucky.
UCLA or Tennessee?
Tennessee.
All right, we are in the Sweet 16. Auburn or Michigan?
Auburn.
North Carolina or New Mexico?
New Mexico.
What in the world?
Hey, this is totally unscripted. So
This is good stuff. Oklahoma or Maryland?
Maryland.
Texas Tech or St. John's?
St. John's.
Duke or Akron?
Duke.
BYU or Bama?
Brigham Young.
Wow, this is nuts. If this is the perfect bracket, the first ever one, this is going to be crazy. Houston or Clemson?
Houston.
And Kentucky or Tennessee?
Tennessee.
We are in the Elite Eight. Auburn or New Mexico?
Auburn.
Maryland or St. John's?
St. John's.
Houston or Tennessee?
Houston.
And then Duke or BYU?
Duke.
So now we're back to earth. We got 3-1 seeds and a 2 seed in the Final Four. Auburn or St. John's?
St. John's.
Duke or Houston?
Houston.
St. John's or Houston.
St. John's or Houston.
Championship game.
I'm going to conjure up a Guy Lewis. Houston.
Hot diggity dang. How many total points? So you got two. St. John's a little bit more offensively inclined. Houston, obviously, really good defensive team. How many total points is going to be scored in the championship game?
133.
Right, here we go. Going to name this one the Herb White bracket. There it is.
Hey,
Houston.
And if it doesn't work out, if Houston loses in the first game, don't take it personal.
I mean, hey, some brackets are crazy, and
this one lives up to the reputation.
But anyway, that took a little bit of time, but nonetheless, it's a great time for us college hoops fans, and it should be an interesting tournament, like it is every year. Your final thoughts on the tournament?
Just enjoy it. It's basketball for Pete's sake. It's not nuclear war. It's not global warming. Stuff that we're trying to avoid. It's basketball. Enjoy it, embrace it, have some fun with it. Even if your bracket is torn to shreds after one weekend,
it will be.
It's okay. They will probably play another one next year.
Well, I'm never going to say that because
said probably.
Well, 2020, man. Anyway.
Yeah.
Now, to another type of ball. Football.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's March. And yes, we're talking about football.
Because football season, unlike basketball or baseball or any other sport,
never ends. The 49ers had their first official practice this past Tuesday. I went out there a little bit. I got to talk with Coach Tim Albin, Jaquarius Connolly, a player for the 49ers, and there seems to be a newfound or rejuvenated amount of excitement around this program. You could say that about any new program.
Absolutely, they're all that way.
But after getting a call, two calls from some local high school coaches that they obviously go to local colleges trying to sell their players, so to speak. But I got some calls and they're really impressed with just A, how the practice was ran, B, the intensity for it to be a first spring practice. They're like, the intensity was really high. That's something you don't normally see. And I mean, they think that Albin could really get the best out of these players. So optimistic was a good word to be thrown around, but Albin was very honest. He's like, there's work to do. You can be excited just because football is back, but it's the first day of spring practice. There's nothing gonna be perfect.
No, and when you have a narrative that says, you know what, this program is taking swings and misses for quite some time, it's a proven state in terms of what they're going to do. Not just this year, because new coach, new schemes, certainly new players, is going to take some time. And football, unlike basketball, is more difficult to put a winner together right out of the gate. So 2025 is going to be a honeymoon period, I think. The key is, what will this look like going down the road? I don't pretend to have the answers for that. And like we've said on countless occasions, it can be about X's and O's, but mostly it's about Jimmys and Joes. And
they got some good ones.
And how many stud Jimmys and Joes will they be able to attract to this program in a manner and in a fashion that would ultimately leverage a winner, a consistent winner?
Look, looking at this roster and how Albin's constructed it, there's a lot of new faces, like there is going to be, every year.
Mm-hmm.
But he really addressed the quarterback issue pretty quickly after Deshaun Purdy and Max Brown. They both kind of announced their exodus. He looked at that position group, and Albin's come from Ohio teams that have had kind of dual threat quarterbacks, but they can run his system well. I think this is going to be a really interesting and unique position battle because they've got some guy, or one particular in Connor Harrell from UNC, that can really have that dual threat ability, can pass and can run. Grayson Loftus from Duke, who's really got a solid arm. I think he's probably the best arm of the quarterback room. But is Albin looking for nothing but an arm, or does he want that dual threat guy? So it'll be interesting. I know you've seen a little bit of Connor Harrell here in Charlotte. What are your takes on his game?
Well, he is not necessarily that experienced and polished, because the one time that I saw him in Charlotte, it was his first collegiate start.
Yeah.
And so that was very much up and down, as you would expect for a first-time starter in a bowl game when a chunk of his UNC teammates sat out for whatever reason, either going off and transferring or getting ready for the NFL draft. So that was not the optimal position for him to be in. But I think the one thing that Charlotte represents for Connor Harrell, as well as any other quarterback who is showing up now, is it's an opportunity. It's your opportunity to go out and seize that QB1 position. And I think that's the way that this program has to be sold, as an opportunity. It's not like you're coming in to keep tradition going. You're there to build some. And that's actually a selling point to some recruits and some players who may be looking to get out from a Power 5 program to blaze their own trail. And I think that that's a good opportunity for any of those quarterbacks if they can actually seize it during the practice sessions and keep that momentum going into the regular season. Will there be bumps? Of course, because quarterbacks can't win games all by their lonesome.
Yeah.
You've got to put some people in front of them to block. You need some running backs to take that pressure off. You've got to have some receivers who can get open and, most important, catch the ball.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So it's not like you're on an island at that position. Is it the most important position? Yes, but it doesn't function without everybody else. I mean, if you are a tire, that's great. You're the most important part of the wheel. But if there are no spokes, it's a problem.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, one guy that he's not, well, at least he's not flying under the radar to anyone who covers the program in depth. But Zach, and forgive me if I butcher your last name, Zach, but I don't have a pronunciation guide in front of me. Wilke? Read that for me.
That's like Wilk.
Okay.
But I can be wrong. But
anyway,
if we are, apologies.
Yeah, for sure. That's why I prefaced that. But forgive me if I butchered it. But Zach Wilk, quarterback. He's 6'3", 205, 206. Previous school was Northwest Mississippi, and he played at Southern Miss prior to that. He's a guy that not many from the outside, when you think, oh, you got a Duke and a North Carolina quarterback, who's this guy? He's going to be third string. That dude can throw it.
Well, but the other side of that is there's a reason why the Duke and North Carolina dude transferred, right?
Well, okay. But, I mean, there's also... So, they may have transferred down, if you want to think of it that way. This kid transferred up.
Mm-hmm.
So, who knows? I mean, just looking at some of his stats... had a season high last year of 287. He redshirted at Southern Miss in 23, but he was 101 of 176 passes for a little over 1,000 yards and 9 touchdowns. So he's not bad.
Yeah, well, but this is, like you said, this is a step up. Southern Miss, like Charlotte, is one of those Group of 5 programs, and good football is played at these schools.
Oh.
So it's not like the dude is trash and he's just there just to make somebody happy. You would hope that something is in him to say, well, you know what? There are people who on this program, on this team, who have those reputations. But once I get through, I will have my own. And so that's the way you have to look at it. You've got to be able to sell it. And perhaps that's what Charlotte is selling now. the opportunity again for everyone to be their own man, to set their own standard in terms of the team. And the team is a bunch of guys who are there for whatever reason, but the goal is the same. And that's something that we haven't necessarily seen out of the program in the past.
Yeah. Listen to this. So the three quarterbacks I mentioned, Zach, Wilkie?
Wilkie?
Yeah.
Like in Wendell?
6'3", 205. Grayson Loftus, 6'3", 215. Connor Harrell, 6'2", 210. They got some guys.
Yeah.
I mean, what's it called? Your height and weight.
Measurables?
There, thank you. See, you can always count on her. The measurables are there for all three guys. I mean, not to throw any shade on Tanner Bushy, but he's redshirt freshman quarterback, 6'2". No one's really talking about him much. We'll see what goes on there. But I had in one of my calls that I had with the high school coach, he was like, he really liked Loftus' game. Played against him when Loftus was a quarterback at Gaffney High School. So he a little bit more familiar with his game. So it'll be interesting to see who wins that battle. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's going to be Connor right now, just because Albin's familiar with that kind of dual threat quarterback style. But don't be surprised if Loftus wins that position battle either, because his arm it's impressive.
Regardless of who is in that competition, I think the main thing, if you're talking about Charlotte's offense, make a decision.
Yeah.
As fast as possible. And you need to be able to have one dude who separates himself from everybody else.
Because if you've got two quarterbacks, you've got no quarterback.
Absolutely. Because there is, I won't say there's no way, but it is more difficult to build continuity when you're shuttling guys in and out. And that is part of what undid Charlotte last year, whether it was injury or ineffectiveness or over-anxiousness by the coaching staff.
Yeah.
Quarterbacks came and went with regularity, and you can't develop any continuity that way, and it showed.
Another position group that I'm interested to keep an eye on is the running back room, because Albin did a phenomenal job of getting guys who entered the portal to withdraw their names from the portal. Both Rod Gainey Jr., who was a freshman sensation out of high school, committed to Biff in the 49ers last year, and Henry Rutledge, who entered the portal, came back out. He was kind of more of a special teams specialist, but both those guys returned to Charlotte. They brought in Don Chaney Jr., who is a 5'11", 220 girthy running back. Then they've got two contrasting running backs with Gainey and Rutledge. And, I mean, don't forget, C.J. Stokes is still there. He didn't follow Biff back to Michigan or anything like that. Stokes is still on the roster. 5'10", 200, so a little bit more thick than Rutledge or Gainey. But Rod Gainey, 6 foot, 175, real agile, one of the best running backs that I've seen move laterally on the team. And that's saying a lot for someone who's covered the program a while. I've seen a lot of running backs. So it'll be interesting to see the quarterback, running back dynamic, who's going to win the 3-down back position, or, I mean, if they rotate them in regularly. I mean, what's to say?
Which is something you're seeing more of in football these days. You may have a bell cow, but you need to have that second or maybe even third person to limit some of the hits that they're going to take, because running back is a high-impact position. And if you're running the ball a lot, then I would imagine that is something that Tim Albin has done in the past. He's relied on running the ball.